Welcome back, everybody. Today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys the one step that you have to take when you're post-processing in order to create amazing photos. It's something that I'm doing on 99% of my photos. It really helps you bring your viewer's eye into the subject of the scene. The thing I'm going to be teaching you is called a vignette. A vignette looks like this. So basically, a vignette just darkens the edges of your frame and allows the middle of your frame to be lighter than the edges, which is a good thing because you always want your viewer's eye to go to the subject of your scene, and more likely than not, your subject is going to be in the center of your frame, not on the edges. And so this dark vignette can really help you kind of walk their eye right into the frame and bring a lot of attention to the center. So I'm going to show you guys how to do it in Lightroom. Now, if you have used the Lightroom vignette slider before, I'm going to show you a much better way. So be sure to stick around. Don't bounce out yet just because you guys have used the vignette slider, because I will show you a more customizable way. Works a lot better. It's very easy, and so I'm super stoked. So let's get started right now. All right, so I'm going to be walking you guys through how to build this vignette on kind of 3 different kinds of images. And the first image is going to be one like this, where you don't necessarily have a light source coming from the left or the right. Your subject's in the center. It's the most simple. So previously, you have probably gone down on the Develop tab here and gone to the vignetting here, which may work fine on this kind of image, but I want to show you guys a more custom way to do it. And that way is going to be using this circle up here. And this is going to build us like a circle selection. And basically, you can move this circle around and zero out the most previous settings that you've used. And then we're just going to reduce the exposure. But you'll notice if I reduce the exposure, it is affecting the inside of the circle, not the outside. Come down here and click invert. Make sure the invert box is not checked. And then now you can see we're building it around the corner. So the nice thing here is that you can actually drag this box to build it exactly how you want. On this photo, since my subject is in the center, I would probably center it, but maybe I want it a little darker on the top up here, not as dark down here on the bottom, just because my subject is kind of the trees and the reflection. So I can just do this and reduce the exposure. You can also feather more or less, which is going to increase the hardness. You can see if I reduce the feather, it's really easy to tell. And you can see that if I increase the feather, you can't tell at all that the vignette is there, really. So I usually like to leave the feather right around the 50 area, but sometimes I'll increase it just a touch. And thinking right about there looks good. So luckily you can just do this all to taste. And then the best way that I like to toggle this is just by using this down here. You can see the before and after, before and after. So this really helps me bring my viewer's eye into the center of the frame. Whereas like this, you still are brought to the center of the frame, but it's harder to keep your viewer there because they want to run out on these bright spots on the edges here. So when you darken those, you can see it really helps the image quite a bit. So the next kind of image that we're going to talk about is this one here. And this one you can see we've got some light coming in. Now, the reason why this technique is really great is because if you were to use the vignette slider here, you can see that it's darkening my sunlight, which we don't want because this should be the brightest spot of the frame. I'm always thinking about where is the light coming from because I don't want to vignette that, because that is essentially what I want to keep bright. And so I'm going to build this again here. And again, you have to zero out the settings and make sure invert is not on. You can drag it in from the side. So now you can see that I'm still darkening the edge, but what I can do here is actually drag this circle out and up and bring it over. And now it's just kind of a game of balancing here because I do want the top clouds to be affected a little bit, but I want that sunlight to still stay bright. So you can see how my circle's kind of hitting the left side of the frame, but not the right. Now let's go ahead and toggle this. You can see that most of the darkening is going to be on those clouds, on that foreground rock, and not a whole lot to the darkening or to the sunlight here. I can even drag this out further If I wanted to decrease it and toggle this again. Perfect. Now you can see that really helps me bring my viewer's eye right into the bright spot on the frame. It kind of darkens out this foreground that's not incredibly interesting on the rocks here. It darkens up these clouds, gives them even more of a stormy look. So that is kind of my favorite way to finish this photo here. And lastly, I'm going to talk about a Milky Way photo because I know a lot of you guys out there are shooting Milky Way. Even if the Milky Way is on the side of your frame, you need to be careful because you don't want to darken the Milky Way in most cases. So I'm going to build this here. Again, got to zero it out and reduce the exposure. And on this one, I want to be sure that I'm not darkening the core of the Milky Way. So again, you can see how the edge of my circle is outside the frame here. So you can kind of think of this circle as the circle is protecting parts of your frame that you want to stay bright. Anything inside the circle is going to stay bright, while anything outside is going to get darkened. Obviously, because we're feathered here, it is somewhat coming inside a little bit, but not too much. So keep the things that you want bright inside the circle, and remember that the darkening is happening around the edges. You can see if I move it around, it's almost like a spotlight here. So I just want to pick the right spot. And I like brightening the Milky Way there and darkening the left side. Let's go ahead and toggle that. Sweet. That is looking good. Looking very good. You can also raise this if I wanted to keep more details at the top of the Milky Way. I could feather it more. I could reduce this darker. You can do a lot with it, but it does work so much better than just using that simple slider. This is just one extra step, but it does give you so much more control. You can check this button down here to get the mask overlay. In red is showing you what's being affected. You can see if I reduce the feather, it will reduce the effect on the inside of the circle. And you can just, when you want to drag it around, you can just click inside the circle and move and drag it. So anyways, guys, that is pretty much how I do my vignette on the final step of my images. So as I mentioned before, this is going to work on like 99% of your images. There is a few things to be careful of though. For example, if you have an image that is mostly all fog, you may not want to vignette the edges because the vignette can kind of make your highlights look a little funky. And another thing, like I said, be really careful. Think about where the light is coming from so you can make sure your vignette isn't darkening the light, because the light should still stay light. You just want to darken the spots where the light is not coming from, which is going to help you give your viewers more of a sense of kind of directional light. So do give this a try, even if you are using that regular vignette slider. I think you'll be much more happy with the results. You're going to love the ability to have more of a fully customizable vignette rather than just the basic slider that they give you. I really think this is going to help you bring your photos to the next level, because it is going to allow you to shape your photos. It's going to allow you to bring your viewer's eye into a certain spot on the image, and it's just going to make your images look great. So thank you guys so much for checking out this video, and we will see you guys next time.